got out all of his necessary tools to try and fix the problem, which I could believe is in London somewhere. I'm told that that is where the problem could be originating. And it's important for all of us to remember and be grateful for the geniuses that are part of our team, because the stuff that they managed to pull off to get this picture to you boggles my mind. I don't even understand the first steps of it, but thankfully that's not my job. Oh, good news, it sounds like picture's back. Thanks, Karen. Here's our eyes and ears and support in America. So that's good news. And I guess it's now time to reposition to try and get you a slightly better view of the elephant, which is down in a bit of a donga. I'm not sure if donga is a word that's used globally, but it basically means a ditch or a hole in the ground. No, I'm just trying to work out what our best option is to get to a better angle of these elephants. Welcome back. Let's show you a pretty big elephant cow. Some of you may notice I've had a bit of a trim, both the beard and the hair. That's thanks to Nikki Austin. She's been employed now as my barber. I used to cut my hair and my beard myself, but it's getting harder to do as I become older, and Nikki has now stood up to the test, and she performed her first haircut this morning. Thank you, Nikki. Well, I'm not actually sure how many elephants are in this herd. We've been spending time with these two, but there were probably about 4 or 5 that we saw. They're all scattered out and dispersed around us here. I'm not sure if I heard a lilac-breasted roller or an impala alarm call. I think it was a lilac-breasted roller, though. It can be a sound that one confuses with one another. I got extremely excited. I mean, there's a good chance that the female leopard that was seen crossing the Arethusa airstrip at 11 o'clock today is in this general area. I'm guessing it's shadow. There is a chance that it could be Kwatile. But as the vegetation does become thicker and more tricky for us to see, and it becomes more juicy and delicious for the elephant and the other herbivores out here, which is something that we need to remind ourselves. They've had a very harsh and dry winter and are thoroughly enjoying the abundance of food now, and will continue to enjoy the abundance for the next few months. Those are some fork-tailed drongos having a conversation behind us, quite a robotic sound. And there we go again. Now I did touch on briefly what I meant by a donga, and I'm actually not sure where or which language the word originates from, but it's certainly a commonly used term and understood term in South Africa. So maybe it's of Dutch descent, but hard to say. And it's basically just a hole in the ground. You get various sized dongas, like any hole in the ground, but Andrew, I don't know, a donga would be a ditch, or how else would you describe a donga? It might be worth Googling donga to see what the internet has to say about that word. But essentially, yeah, it's just a hole in the ground. And Paul was interested to know a little bit more about that. So I hope that answers your question, Paul. Another word that we use out here in Africa is a koppie. K-O-P-J-E is the spelling, I think. I think I should reposition. I'm not giving Andrew much to work with here, but he is doing a great job nonetheless. But I've got a little bit lazy and I'm not taking into consideration his job, which is to provide you with beautiful images. Apologies for that, Andrew. Okay. Thanks very much to Derek, who is one of the Safari Live fanatics, but also a rugby fanatic, and he says that Italy are currently playing Canada. And Italy, I heard, I think it's 23 points to 18, so quite a tight game. And it's wonderful how a lot of the international teams are already stepping up to the plate, creating a much more exciting World Cup competition. Many years ago, there was just kind of 3 or 4 teams that used to dominate, whereas now it's a lot more even. And Derek would also like to know what my predictions are for the South Africa-Samoa game later. Derek, I don't know what to say about that, but I know we've got a huge job ahead of us against the mighty Samoans. Let's wait and see, and obviously I'm hoping that South Africa managed to pull it off, but like I said, a massive job lies ahead. Louis just arrived on the scene to enjoy the sighting as well, and whilst we were talking about rugby, the Elephants has moved out of the beautiful spot that I got us into, so let's try that again. Derek, thank you very much for your updates. Back in my youth and at school and university, but as soon as I started working in the bush, sports is one thing that you kind of have to sacrifice, especially team sports, obviously, because there's seldom enough people for us to string together a touch rugby game. And even watching TV and supporting rugby has become difficult. I don't watch much TV at all, so I'm not too much in the loop of what's going on with a lot of the sports fixtures these days. But obviously come time for the World Cup, I'm going to get involved in that action. But it is something to think about if you ever do want to come and work in the bush. You will no longer be playing team sports. I think it's fair to say we are entering the golden hour now. And we get soft, beautiful sunlight. And we are in for some wonderful shots here, I'm sure. Cape turtle dove is calling again in the background. But like so often, the feathered friends of feeling. Hard to distinguish, but an important sign to look at when spending time with elephants. They can be incredibly peaceful, as they are now, but in the same breath they can get quite worked up and violent if they're in a bad mood. They're incredibly protective mothers, and you do always have to be very in tune with all the indicators that are available to us, that being one of them. As Andrew zooms out, I think we may get a glimpse of this moon that is waxing at the moment. There it is. The terminology used for the moon when it's growing is it is waxing, and when it is dissipating in size, it is waning, for those of you who are interested in that. And I think either tomorrow or the next day it's going to be a full moon. Last night when we went to go and spend time with the Birmingham Coalition after dinner, we were driving around with no headlights, and it was really wonderful. Oh, that young bull got a little bit excited there, not too sure what about. That's why Andrew tried to shoot you in to work out what was going on. Now I'm told that there was a very large herd of giraffe quite close to this area, and as the sun begins to set, if we can relocate this makulu hlampe nuthla, which means very, very well, thanks very much to MJ and Donna. They're going to help me answer Paul's question a lot better about what exactly is a donga. And it's a narrow ravine which formed by water erosion, which is usually dry, but during the rainy season it will be wet. So I've been using the term donga a little bit loosely, I guess. And thank you very much for clearing that up with me. I don't read nearly as many books as I should. And that's probably why my vocab is not the best. Anyway, Let's go on a giraffe hunt. That is something that I'm better at doing, better than reading books. I can look for giraffe happily, day in, day out, or any animals really. I'm told they were just a little bit west of us when we found that herd of elephants, and we hardly moved from when we found them to when we left a few minutes ago. I'm just going to check the road carefully and see if there's no sign of where these giraffe have crossed. If we don't find any sign of them here, then we'll... Okay, well, it could be a few minutes. Continue on this quest. We are going to send you across to Jamie Patterson for an update. Enjoy.
Welcome back. And I just stopped to let this beautiful emerald spotted wood dove potter about the road and do his thing, picking up the various bits of seeds that he can find. But look how beautiful he is. And if we catch him in the light, unfortunately there's not much here, but those little green dots that you can see on his wings at the base, those shine that iridescent green that you see on starlings. It makes them a very, very beautiful little bird. And in local cultures, strangely enough, their call is believed to be very bad luck to listen through all of the whole call in total. It's believed that if you do, something bad might happen to your family. Very strange belief. It is a very long call, and supposedly it sounds like, I'm sad, 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 sad. Now, I'm not sure that that's what I hear when I hear the emerald spotted wood dove call, but it is a sound that we hear very regularly out in the bush. I'm just going to look for a picture quickly to show you the different types that we get. Now, something that... So this is a little bird that we're looking at with those emerald spots at the base of its wings there. And the most common little wood dove that we do get. But those are generally the little doves that we've seen. And then one last one, sorry wildebeest, I was stopped to listen but I got distracted. This is the smallest dove that we get in the area. A little Namakwa dove. Very, very tiny. There you go, listen closely. There is one calling. Sad, 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 sad. Let's just sit quietly, see if we can hear it once again. It's very soft, it's quite far away, it's a bit further down the road, but it would be nice to just finish what I'm saying whilst listening to it. There. Go, 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 go. There you go, that's what I'm talking about. That's the call of the emerald spotted wood dove. And I suppose it does sound a little bit mournful, but that's what we were listening for. And I've listened to it many times from start to finish. I certainly wouldn't have associated any bad luck with it. But such a typical African sound. And what a beautiful evening this is turning out to be. We start to hear them a lot more frequently at this time of year. But Tom, you were wondering if these emerald spotted wood doves are a migratory species, and no, they're not. They're here all year round in the Sabi Sands, and we do see them on a fairly regular basis, but we're hearing them a lot more now at this time of year. But very, very common to see them in the road, wandering around and picking up the various seeds. And when you see their perfect little dove tracks, they walk like this. So the back heel falls where the front toe just left off, if that makes sense. So they kind of walk like this. And you see their tracks crisscrossing all across the road early in the morning. And it's a very, very good way of aging other animals' tracks, because you know that they are strictly diurnal, so strictly out and about during the day. So if you've got leopard tracks over them, then that's a perfect sign that those tracks are nice and fresh. But if you've got leopard tracks under them, then it was probably from the night before. But definitely an all-round year species. All year round species. There we go. Get it right eventually. Coming now to the cooler times of the day. Taxon is also on his way. I bumped into Taxon at Buffelshoek Dam. I did go and check there for the leopards, but Taxon was there first and he said no sign of them there. We're still doing a bit of exploration. Oh, what a beautiful evening this has turned out to be. It's finally nice and cool now, or at least cooler than it was at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Perfect place to start looking is to be around the drainage lines. So I mentioned this morning as we took that trip through the Mawati and stopped to look at all of the trees and the various growth forms that you get in a drainage line, that they are a perfect place to look for hidden leopards, other animals that use them to shelter from the heat, and even those elephants that we followed this morning. Were lying down in the shade. So drainage lines are a good place to be looking out and about for things. Now I've just remembered something. Before we were hit with an attack of the gremlins, I was busy explaining a little bit about Sharon's question about zebras' manes. And we were saying that they never grow longer than sort of roughly that height that they reach. And we were talking a little bit about it, and I Sharon, I wasn't sure if you'd heard me or not because we went through that bad signal patch just as I was explaining to you. And I suggested that probably because of the number of thorn trees and thick vegetation that we have around here, a long mane would probably work more as a disadvantage than anything else. It would definitely be hooked in everything as they move through. So they've evolved to have those nice short manes. But because zebra always look round, which is something we discussed at length, especially with that female that we presume to be pregnant, because of the nature of their digestive system, you don't often see a skinny looking zebra. I'm going to show you something quickly in the beautiful light. Although the sun has dipped below the ideal point. Let's just poke our noses into here and have a look at this beautiful tree wisteria. It's one. Here we go. And just a reminder that the fluid head on Jigger is a little bit shaky. It broke yesterday. Term fix. But have a look at how beautiful this is. And although it's called wisteria, it is a naturally occurring species here. It is a tree wisteria. Obviously named because it shares a very similar look to the wisterias that you get in Europe. And I'm not sure if you get them in America. Let me know if you do. If you do. A very useful tree, although not only beautiful. The wood is very hard and resistant to termites.
The white stripe on his back.
Oh, interesting. Almost looks to me like a... So it's a very useful tree in terms of building furniture, things like wagons and fence posts, And you can see how beautiful it is. And the one thing about these trees is you very seldom see anything feeding on them. But a really very pretty tree. Now, since we have had this beautiful flower, and I believe Scott has a rather beautiful sunset to show you, let's head across to him for now, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And what a beautiful scene this is as the sun ducks below the Drakensberg Mountains. A few Birchall starlings just flew through the shot there. And I know I say this often, but aren't we so lucky to be able to explore this beautiful, beautiful part of the planet. Cape turtle dove calling loudly. And the great thing about this area is not only the magical scenes that we get to enjoy, but also the animals that we get to see in between. And I'm feeling lucky. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling that the female leopard that was seen in this general area at around 11 a.m. this morning is going to pop up for us in the next few minutes. Either she'll pop out onto the road in front of us, which would be first prize, or possibly some impala that are in this area may detect her as she tries to hunt them, start alarm calling, and then we can rush into Large herd of giraffe. I think they must be north of Safari Driveway. Oh, there's a massive waterbuck just ran across the road in front of us. Hopefully it's going to stop so we can get you some views of it. Okay. Now I've just heard on the Game Drive channel all of the guides desperately asking for standbys, and I wonder what it is that they've found. Just going to continue listening, and the good news is there's another waterbuck that's just about to cross the road in front of us. And it sounds like whatever has been found, I'm guessing it's a predator, is very close to us, but they're already let's stop here. I mean, it's far off, but there's a heron flying far up in the sky. And it's not a bird that we often get to see. Is it too far, Andrew? Oh, there it is. Its long legs trailing behind it. And you'll notice at this stage of the evening, when there's no hot air thermals rising off the earth, the birds have to flap more intensely than they do during the midday. I wonder where it's heading off to. There must be some incredible views from up there at this stage of the evening. I think it's 3 Birmingham males that have been found. So that's some exciting stuff. I'm not sure exactly where they popped up, but it sounds like quite close to us. Old has said that the skies over in Ohio don't quite look the same as they do here, and we're very lucky here in Africa, Isabella. We've got some beautiful, beautiful skies to see. The sun is the same one that you're seeing back home, but the skyline, for a few reasons, I think will be different to the sky that you get to see. A lot of dry dust will be creating the bright colors that we get to see, and maybe it's not as dry and dusty over in Ohio. But happy to hear that you are enjoying the beautiful scenes, Isabella. And I hope you enjoy not only the scenes, but the whole afternoon drive. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find you some elephant to look at now. Who knows what we may bump into. Sadly, something has happened to the camera on Jamie's vehicle. So they've rushed off back to camp to try and fix it. I'm not sure exactly what could have happened. So you're stuck with me for the foreseeable future. Andrew's showing you a beautiful moon. Maybe I should, let me just find a nice treat for you, Andrew. Like I said earlier, that 3 of the Birmingham males have been located somewhere in this general area, but sadly all of the standbys have been snapped up for that sighting quite quickly, so I don't think we're going to get a gap to see them, but we'll work around and maybe squeeze a few minutes in before the end of the show. And Ruth in Costa Rica would like any other updates we have on the line. I'm not too sure of what else is going on. I think the Djuma timber males are further south of us on a property called Londolozi. Those seem to be hanging out now since the Birmingham boys have arrived. And one wolf, another viewer, is interested to know if there are any updates on Junior, the young male lion from the Inkabuma tribe. Well, I can't even remember when last he was seen, but it was quite some time ago, so who knows where he is, whether he's still alive. But there have been no sightings of him that I've heard of from any of the guides in this general area. I'm sure at some point we will get some conclusive evidence as to whether he is still alive or not, but who knows, maybe we will never know what happened to him. This will work as the tree for Andrew to work as magic with the moon. It's a marina that's sitting at a very awkward angle thanks to an elephant that's pushed it over. Beautiful. Now if you look closely and you get your imagination going, you'll notice what looks like a rabbit with 2 ears on the top of the screen. And those are massive craters, or what were once seas apparently, on the moon. And that's what causes the different coloration you see. Strangely enough, the moon is a black planet. It's got a very shiny black material that covers its surface. And the reason why it appears white to us is because of the sun's rays bouncing off that shiny black material, giving it a very white appearance. Not quite full yet, maybe tomorrow or the next day. Still a beautiful scene nonetheless. And the marula tree, you can see, is beginning to push out its leaves. Soon they will be densely covered and hard to see into, making it a little bit more tricky for us to spot leopards sleeping in them, which they like to do in the summer months. It gets them out of the warm carpet-like undergrowth on the ground and up into a cool breeze. Excuse me. So that's something, or a place that we all need to start focusing on when we are driving around, up in the trees. mainly the Maruda trees, which have the very comfortable thick horizontal branches which leopards love to doze in. At the moment, we're probably heading out a little bit early, and we're thinking about trying to change the game drive times to the time we are heading out at the moment. But now the temperature is absolutely perfect, at least for I battle in the hot weather unless I'm on a beach, a cold drink in my hand. Station help me with an update as to the position of the 3 Birminghams. Go ahead. Okay, sadly not copying you very clearly, but not to worry. Okay, copy. Thanks very much for that update. Enjoy. So they are on the same road. Those buffalo just came charging past. I was wondering if the lion went close behind. But they are on the same road as we are, but probably about a mile or two south of us. As he moved south, and the other 4 would sometimes return his calls. Well, we found some elephants. I'm not sure if it's the same ones we were looking at earlier. It doesn't look like. Birmingham's late last night is that the behavior of these animals is so difficult to understand. At stages when the one individual that had left them all on his own, and that in itself is a mystery as to why he would go and leave his 4 compadres alone. Sometimes when he called, all 4 of them would return a call to him, and at other times only 1 or 2 of the individuals that we were with would return the call, and sometimes none of them would return the calls to him. So really interesting behavior to see. You'd assume that when he calls, all 4 of them would simultaneously call back. We'll be glad to know that Jamie and the camera that they had. Oh, here goes some action here. It's 2 youngsters chasing one another. You can see one's just run across the road, and this one over here is being a bit of a bully. Who knows what? Hey, are you going to come and bully us now? Oh, please don't. Please don't bully us. Thank you. Phew. Oh, he's thinking about it maybe. Oh, oi. Naughty. Well, let's hope it doesn't go and bully this little calf, because if it does, its mother may well call its mother for reinforcements, and its mother's not far away. to help feed though. Another youngster that's just come running off behind us. How big and strong they are to us. Now before the light fades too much, I want to send you back to Jamie, who is up and running, as they found a better view of an antelope that you couldn't see too well earlier on the safari. And I think it's a resident that sleeps outside Vim, aka the wildebeest's room, every night. And he said, he was telling me the story just the other morning, that the other night he was woken up by the barks of this bushbuck, as it obviously saw something, possibly a leopard, that scared it. And they've got a wonderful view of it at the moment. So we're going to shoot you across there before the light fades anymore, and hopefully these ellies will still be around by the time you get back.
Welcome back. And would you look at this? After our struggles of this afternoon, look who's decided to turn up on a termite mound right outside where the rest of the team stays at DRC, and in particular where this little bushbuck sleeps outside the wildebeest's room. This is probably one of our better views of a bushbuck that we're going to get in the last few darkening rays of the sunset safari. It sounds like you guys have been having some amazing fun with those ellies and Scott. Wildebeest and I just raced back here to collect something quickly, a new battery for the, or a different battery for the camera, and we bumped into this little guy. Really, really nice. It's so seldom that we get to see an open view of them like this. Little male bushbuck. Still quite a young guy. His fur is still quite light. He will get a little bit darker with age. And his horns will grow a little bit. But just if you can look closely at them, the sort of tinge of the setting sun, you can see the slight twist of them. That makes him part of the spiral-horned antelope family. And he's just taken this moment to sit on the termite mound and quite literally ruminate on the day's events. And I think he's found the perfect vantage point to spend the evening before he relocates to outside wildebeest's bedroom window to spend the night. Can you hear the scops owl? To leave that for now and see if we can find one on quarantine. I did see a herd of elephants slowly making their way to
I'm sure you enjoyed what sounded like a great view of that bushbuck chewing the cud. Wildebeest friends, I think he's named it Bossy, and in Afrikaans, which is a language that VM speaks very well, he is from Afrikaans descent. Bos means bush, and bok means buck, So in Afrikaans, a bushbuck is a bosbok, and he has named his resident bushbuck Bossy. Happy to hear that we've opened up a new avenue of thought for B. Wilson, who sent through his comment on Twitter using the hashtag Safari Live. And they said that they've heard of a man on the moon, but certainly not a rabbit on the moon, which we pointed out a little bit earlier. So I'm glad you enjoyed that, B. Wilson. This must be one very tasty bush willow tree, because the elephants are attacking it from all angles. It's getting tricky for you guys to see now, even though Andrew has pulled out all the potential gain that this camera can kick in as the light begins to fade. Yes, that's a little bit better. There's maybe 5 or 6 of them there enjoying a bush willow buffet. A rugby game, and South Africa are in the lead with 15 minutes done in the first half. We are. Thank you so much. That puts a smile on my face. And apologies for those of you who aren't interested in rugby, but what sounds like a slightly better view of some other elephants that she would like to share with you, and we will catch up with you.
Welcome. And we're going to be able to share this glorious South African sunset with a herd of elephants. I'm just repositioning, because obviously I can't shine lights on a peaceful herd like this. It's only going to upset them. So I'm trying to find a way to get them in silhouette against the beautiful sunset. And it really is the most glorious evening. We should come to a link road fairly soon. Now, Ellie's at night. I can't go crashing around too much off-road after them. See if we can catch up with them. Let's see if we can find out where they are. I think we're going to struggle to get them. Let me try one more time. As I said, it's going to make them a little bit nervous if I go crashing through the bushes. Let's try one more time. Oh, but it is such a beautiful evening. It really is spectacular. And there we can just see those big dark shapes moving through. Oh, so beautiful. What a glorious way to spend the last few minutes of the sunset safari, and surrounded by a herd of elephants moving through. I'm just going to let this mom cross the ahead of me, and then we can try and get them in silhouette against the last few rays of the sunset. Interestingly, I've just heard a report from Brent, who is at Inge's house, saying that he thinks he heard a leopard calling all the way from Buffelshoek Dam. So that male that we were tracking earlier could well have popped out somewhere there. Unfortunately, it's a little bit far for us to get there, especially since we've only heard it. He could be anywhere by now. We're going to have to stop here so that we don't upset the little one. Hello, Baba. It's okay. You can come through. Here he goes, moving in front of me. Across to Mom. And we're right in the middle of the herd, and just to describe this feeling to you in the dark, there's something so magical about elephants. You just get the soft sounds of them feeding all around you. Here you can just see the silhouette of a trunk reaching up. We're so privileged that they feel safe enough in the dark to allow us to spend time with them. Just these great bulky things moving in the sort of dim light. There you go, little bits of silhouette. How cool is that? It's so beautiful. Just little hints of movement in silhouette. And there's a very special feeling at the end of a hot day like this, a hot summer's day. As it starts to get cooler and everything smells so strongly of elephant now. I think we're reaching Just the point where it's that little bit too dark. But we'll spend the last few moments just listening to them. Whilst we're watching them feed in the last few bits of sunlight, I mentioned that I don't want to shine spotlights on them, and that's because they are predominantly a daytime animal. That's when they move about, but that doesn't mean that they're not awake during the night and feeding, and they'll probably continue to feed and to move, especially in the summertime, when it is so hot during the day and it's much nicer and there's a much more relief towards the evening. Now, Lindsay, you were wondering if elephants ever sleep, and they do. They definitely do. They don't nap for hugely long periods of time, but when they do, they really do go to sleep. And once or twice I've stumbled on even full-grown bulls that are so fast asleep that we've come as a surprise to each other. And they can also lie down. So it might seem incredible. The babies do it a lot because they're much smaller, but the adults can do it too, and they can lie flat on the ground. They can't do it for extended periods of time just because of the weight of their organs, but they can do it. The babies can do it for a little bit longer because they're not as heavy. But yes, elephants do lie down. Often the adults will try and prop themselves up on a termite mound or something along those lines. But these ellies will be moving long into this night. Mentioned that they're going to be moving through tonight and feeding, and Deanna from Michigan, you were wondering what their eyesight is like in the dark, and I think it can be quite similar to ours, maybe a little bit better. They probably see slightly better. Elephants do have, I believe, quite excellent eyesight in terms of, you compare them to other animals like rhino, for example, that have very, very poor eyesight. Elephants do have good eyesight, and they do move around a lot in the dark. Look, a lot of it is controlled by their hearing and their sense of smell and touch, but they can see a little bit. Now, on a night like tonight, even we could walk around in the dark without a torch or completely unaided, because this moon is going to be so, so bright that once our eyes adjust to the darkness, we could actually move around completely unaided. I wouldn't suggest it. I definitely wouldn't go walking around in the middle of the bush at night, but you could do it. And it's the kind of night where if you go out late at night and you switch off all your lights and you sit in silence in the dark, you'll be able to see moon casting shadows around the open areas, and it creates such a beautiful atmosphere. It really is going to be an extraordinary evening out here. It's so warm and beautiful and quiet and dead, dead still. There's not a breath of wind. There's the moon just poking through. And because it is night time, and we are surrounded by elephants, I can't turn on my lights whilst I'm around them. It's going to give them a bit of a fright. At the moment, I can't really move forward, because although you can't see it and I can't show you now, it's a little bit too dark. There is an elephant right in the road in front of me. But for now, whilst I extricate myself from this wonderful sighting, let's head across to Scott and see what he's doing out and about on night drive, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
welcome back everyone. Sounds like you're enjoying a bit of a different elephant sighting after dark. Sounds quite soothing actually. We're glad Jamie made that last for as long as she could. Andrew and I are getting very excited to go and watch the rugby. To be brutally honest, we should get the whole of the second half. But we are still very focused at our task at hand, and we're trying to find you something interesting before the end of the show. Possibly a chameleon, possibly a bush baby, maybe a leopard, who knows? Business night drives, they can be quite fruitless a lot of the times, but when you do get lucky, it's usually a quality sighting of a rare animal that you don't often get. From side to side, and it may appear that I'm shining quite too slowly. We wouldn't cover any ground as we drive along, so it's important to shine quite quickly from side to side, and all we're looking for is the reflection of the animal's eyes, which is very easy to pick up. You often find people shining a spotlight for the first time don't actually shine quickly, and they shine very slowly, trying to scan each bush cred. Some bush, yeah, some dirt road cred. To Shannon in Ohio. Shannon's interested to know, will lion or leopard ever try and take down elephants? And yes, there is a strong chance, and it does happen, that lion do take down elephant, not only tiny babies but quite well-grown adults and teenagers. But it's quite a rare thing to see. It's not something that happens very often. But there are certain prides. I think the most recent pride was somewhere in Botswana that had specialized in hunting elephants. So it can happen. I've never actually heard of a leopard catching an elephant. It could well have happened. It may have sniped a young elephant calf. But I've never heard of it or seen any footage or heard any reports of such a thing happening. But the fact that a big male leopard like the Anderson male caught and killed a baby giraffe which weighs 100 kilograms, quite a similar weight to a newborn So, thanks again for all of your contributions, questions and everything else that you've been involved with on the safari this afternoon. Well done to Nikki and Jess in the final control room, and to Andrew on camera. A highlight for me was certainly the marabou stork catching that fish. It was a first for me, so I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you all on the Sunrise Safari. Over to Jamie.
Thank you everybody for joining us on this beautiful afternoon and evening of this sunset safari. I am not going to talk too much longer. I'm just going to say a big thank you to Vian, the wildebeest, for all of his spectacular camera work, as well as Nikki and Jess and FC and Alex for all of his technical work. Thank you to you, the viewers. I'm going to now let the last of the African evening do the talking. Enjoy the wonderful view, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning.